Hey everybody, it's Pete. Welcome to Stock Trading Pro. And today's Stock Market Live, we got a ton of stuff to talk about. One of the interesting things today is we're going to discuss a sector of stocks that we have not talked about for a while, and they are moving their way up the sector rotation ladder. This is a really big part of successful trading. When you want to make money and make it a lot easier, again, you still have to learn how to trade. Spotting the trades and making money, those are two separate skills that hopefully you're learning from us. But it's moving up the ladder, and there's a lot of different opportunity. One of those stocks, which we mentioned earlier in the week, has what we call classic accumulation. And I know John A. here does a lot of research on that kind of stuff where we talk about the 4 stages of price action. I'm going to show you that accumulation. I'm going to show you the stock, and then we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into that group. Of course, we're going to talk about the CPI data today, what the potential of the CPI data can do with inflation, how that's going to affect the markets, and are we setting up where the market is resting right at a big resistance level? We're going to explode through there if inflation shows it's coming down, or have we hit a giant wall and that's it, the rally's done and we start heading in the other way? What's next for the stock market? We're going to put those clues together today, but we're going to start out first with Coinbase stock and the implosion in that stock over the last couple of days. It got bailed out with a little bit of good news earlier in the week. The stock took off to the upside, and now it's all the way back down right near the spot where it broke out from. Coinbase stock is going to be very interesting to analyze and look at today. We'll do a little bit of technical analysis. We'll do a little bit of tape reading, and we're going to jump over into another stock that absolutely exploded to the upside after earnings, the opposite of Coinbase stock, and putting it in the game plan today here as well. So my gosh, I'm excited today. We have a lot going on. The whole world, I think, is waiting on our CPI numbers. Certainly our market. It slowed down quite a bit the last 2 days. I'm out of breath already. We got a lot to talk about, so stick around. I'll be back in just 1 second. Okay, so thank you so much. We're actually going to go right into the CPI number. We want to make sure we say hello to everybody. Of course, I'm very grateful that you're joining here today. Hopefully you're learning stuff from me every day. The big thing, again, if you happen to be new to our channel, everything starts out with order flow and tape reading. Order flow is it obvious? Tape reading is it still valid, or has it changed? We put those two things together. Trading stock market becomes a heck of a lot easier because you're no longer guessing. Once you have the roadmap, it's just a question of learning how to time your entries and your exits at that point. So I just want to make sure I say hello to a few people. John Bates. John just moved. Congratulations on the new house, John. Best of luck with the new house. Don, as always, love to have you here. Glenn, good morning as well. Good morning, good morning. And of course, my buddy Luis. Luis is one of our most active participants in our Order Flow Pro community. I want you to know, Luis, how much I appreciate that. So we're first going to hop on over and we're going to take a look at the big news that everybody's waiting for today, and it's the CPI data. Let me actually expand this a little bit. The reason I'm bringing this one up is because the author of this article, Hannah Mayo, I'm going to say this, she does a really good job of not only talking about what we're expecting, and everybody can actually see here at 8:30 is where it's coming out. So if we actually kind of dive on over into the S&P, we just want to make sure that we have a framework for where we are right now. And you can see this is the bigger wall that we've been talking about. But here's where we are right now. We're actually up 10, right? And you can see what happened in the market the last couple of days, really kind of choppy, a little bit directionless, a lot more stock specific in the last couple of days. But here's where we are now overnight, anticipating what's going to happen. So let's actually do a little bit of a deep dive, and then we're going to hop right into Coinbase, I promise. All right. Latest reading on inflation Wednesday. That's the big thing. Now, we all know inflation has been running hot, and the only thing really that's come down where I live, I don't know where everybody else, but energy prices have come down, which is why energy is towards the bottom of the list right now. I think it is actually on the bottom. So the price at the pump has come down dramatically, but not much else. You go out and you buy it, go to the diner, and it's $50 for 2 people to have lunch if you include a nice little tip in there for the person serving you. So it's going to be really interesting. Okay, the inflation data that's coming out today, if it shows it's slowing down, and then all the language around that looks bullish, my gosh, we could be really setting up not only a great short-term trading Wednesday through the rest of this week, and hopefully if you have some good swing trades on, you get a nice little pump out of those, right? If it comes in and shows the inflation data is not slowing down, that's going to force the Fed to increase rates, and they're actually pricing in right now already the possibility of another 0.75 of a basis point rate hike. That is a lot. 3 of them in a row, that would be something special. They're trying to do their best to push inflation down, and the only lever that they have, the biggest lever, is pushing those interest rates higher to slow things down. It should be affecting growth stocks, and right now it's not. So that's going to be interesting, because as interest rates go up, those growth stocks have to borrow money, and that should be more expensive. But if you're keeping an eye on these things, and hopefully you are, which I'm sure you are, these stocks that led the market, and especially this guy, this big dog Apple, really powering the market. Now, what's kind of exciting about some of these growth stocks, NVIDIA actually took a little bit of a hit. We've actually been trading, and just to give you an idea, AMD is probably one of the most popular recent stocks that we've been actively trading in the community. I trade it pretty much every day. It's got a little bit of a pullback now. Earnings are kind of out of the way. Inflation data coming out today. Tech stocks have been carrying the market higher. AMD is the stock that I have been mostly actively trading, and I want to show you why. When you understand stock trading and you understand what you're looking for in the market, it's so much more important to know what you're looking for than it is to predict what's going to happen next. We don't need to predict. We just need to know what we're looking for. If it's there, get in there and trade with conviction. If it's not there, you go look for something else. Again, we talk about it, go make a cup of coffee and preserve your capital. AMD is pretty much doing exactly what you would want it to do. It's pushing off the lows. It had a failed test of the low. It broke this level, and you see we're getting some really clean price action. And now we have what we can call a really clean bull flag. So if the numbers today are pretty good, then we're going to be looking to trade AMD a little bit longer term and hang on to that, maybe even into the next quarter. We'll see. We're letting the numbers come out today. Remember, everything that we do, if this happens, then I plan to do this. If this happens and it does not happen, I just leave it alone and then look for another opportunity, which is now going to take us over into Coinbase. So first, taking a look at Coin and the amazing meteoric rise that this stock has had over the last week or so. Over here, this 4-day consolidation. Our community was all over it over these days. This was actually a gift. Now let's hop on over and talk about what that gift is and exactly what it has. So there's a conversation about a partnership with BlackRock, right? That's amazing. BlackRock is a big deal. And prior to that, the stock was consolidating. You can see earnings came out after that. So we're going to work our way over to that. So Coinbase stock pulled back, paused, broke out of this consolidation ahead of earnings and ahead of the BlackRock conversation, and just absolutely exploded. So we actually kind of take it from in the middle of this conversation right over here, which is really what we were doing in our community. We're talking about a 85% or so rally off of that low. So one of the biggest things that we talk about, and I give full credit where credit's due. I learned this strategy from Larry Williams, who's one of the classic trading mentors, one of the most well-educated traders out there, who's been teaching trading for a long time. Consolidations lead to an expansion in volatility. Larry says that those are the only two patterns you really need to know in the markets. Contraction leads to expansion. Consolidation leads to big volatile moves. And that's what we actually saw in Coin ahead of the news. The news came out, sold the news, and the stock pulled back. All right, so let's take a look at that. And this is what the stock actually did after the BlackRock news came out. So we all know sell the news, right? That's the big part of the conversation. But if we take this off the screen, we can see what's happening now since earnings and where we are right now. It's actually pulled up a little bit. It was down around 80. But this is the level that I'm looking at right here. You can see that this was a significant level here, and where it broke out just prior to this. So 80 is the level that I'm watching. So if we kind of work our way away from Coinbase and the BlackRock partnership and talk about what's going on the last couple of days about their earnings. Look, competition is coming in. We all knew that competition was coming in. Let's think big picture, and let's think when we're looking at Coinbase stock and we're looking at some of the crypto themselves, the digital currencies themselves, as well as Bitcoin mining stocks. I'm going to walk you through a couple of the ones that I'm very actively trading. It's not Coinbase. Coinbase is something that is a much shorter time frame trade. It's more of an active trade for me right now. But because Coinbase is now getting more competition, and quite frankly, their activity has dropped dramatically with what they're calling crypto winter over the last, let's say, 6 months. They're not making as much money. So if you go into the store and there's nobody in the store, very similar to what's going on with Hood, H-O-O-D, Robinhood stock. Robinhood had to lay off a massive amount of people. The stock jumped up on that. We'll take a look at that in just 1 second. You can see where that happened. A layoff is a good short-term thing. It's not good long-term. So you got some short-term news, and now pulling back. But if we get into Coinbase and we start to take a look at some of the other things that are going on in here, revenue declined 64%. Now, I'm going to compare this to a different stock that we actually mentioned on Monday, which is PLTR, Palantir. It's all about revenue and especially profits. You can have revenue, but if you have more expenses, your company's not making money. And again, if we take it, let's say we go to Sean, and Sean comes over to us and he says, I have a company down the block. I'm not making any money, but I want you to invest in it. Who in their right mind is going to say that sounds like a great deal? Same thing is going on with Palantir. Palantir has revenue. They have one big contractor, which is the government, but they're not profitable yet. Same thing with Coinbase. Coinbase's revenue is dropping like a rock, not BlackRock, a rock. So what does that mean from an investing perspective in Coinbase and Coinbase stock? Let's dive into this a little bit more to make some informed decisions, okay? Coinbase revenue declined almost 64% as cryptocurrency prices fell. So now we know what is the number one driver. Is crypto is active, Coinbase will have more transactions in Coinbase will lead to higher revenue for Coinbase, right? That's good on the surface, but now Coinbase has a lot more competition coming into the market where there's actually free coin trading going on right now. That's a big deal. You can't compete with free. That's very hard to do. There's a whole other thing behind the scenes about payment for order flow and whatnot. So now we're starting to build the argument. You know, as you have your notebook, like I'm sure everybody does, you start to take notes on what makes that particular type of stock rally. It's revenue and net profits, right? Those two things will make future cash flows attractive. But then the next part of that is competition. And that's where we're going to dive a little bit deeper now as we move our way down here, right? Start working our way into the earnings. Earnings declined. Here's the revenue, right? But the big thing here now is crypto companies are becoming a lot more complex. There's no regulations in there yet. We all know that what happened with Celsius recently and that company filing bankruptcy. We're starting to see more competition, a big part of that right now. So I want to make it clear what I'm talking about here now in Coin, all right? Coin for me, the same thing with SQ, Block Inc., and I'll just give you an idea of that chart as well. We'll pull that one up right now, SQ. Right now, you can see this one's actually very similar, pulling back, right? These stocks for me right now, SQ and Coinbase, they are active trading stocks for me right now. And I want to separate the two companies. SQ Block Inc. is tied to crypto, but they also have other revenue sources. Coinbase is literally tied to crypto, and the way the crypto market and the crypto activity is going to happen, there's a lot more to unfold. And truth, you know, again, full transparency, I have not invested a penny in crypto yet. I trade crypto mining stocks, and I'm trading coin, actively trading it, and I'm trading SQ. But I personally feel there needs to be more regulation. I think that we need to see the competition wash out whoever's not going to last, whether it's free trading, whether it's activity based on coin. I am personally waiting for a longer term investment in coin until all of that unfolds. But as an active trader, it checks off all the boxes for short-term trading, whether that's 1 day to 3 to 4 days. I'm not looking for anything longer than that. And it's a very active position because all of that regulation for me is going on behind the scenes with coin, cryptocurrencies, and specifically Coinbase, the company. That's a mouthful, right? So what does that mean? That means that it meets liquidity requirements for me as an active trader. It's got plenty of shares traded every day. It's got volatility, obviously, but I'm not looking for a longer term position because of all of those headwinds. Now, remember we said, if this happens, then I plan to do this. So a longer term investment in Coinbase for me would be if the regulations clear up, if their competition starts to drop off, if Bitcoin activity starts to get a little bit more reliable because the regulation is a little bit more in line and people feel like their money's protected. There's been hacks recently. Celsius filed bankruptcy. That's still not out of the picture. So for me personally, I'm waiting for it to be a longer term play for me right now. But my gosh, SQ and Coin have been very good for short term active trading, as we saw in that price action recently. So that's how I'm looking at coin right now, and obviously SQ. So this is, you can go through this a little bit more detail, but what's going on here is this is the big deal, right? That is the big deal. Right now, the market is not viewing the future cash flows. Now, what I want to talk about now is also sector rotation. That's obviously a big part of what we do here every day, and we're going to work our way over here. So this is how the market's unfolding this week, right? Start out with Monday, not really the most awesome picture from Friday coming into today. Heading into Tuesday, Monday's price action was pretty darn good. And something that's super interesting is technology. Technology continues to be up there, but look at how far technology worked its way down the list, right? So they cooled off a little bit. But look what's working its way towards the top of the list. Basic materials and financials. Now, if you remember earlier in the week, or maybe it was last week, there's 4 stages to price action that you need to know. And when you could learn to spot them before the stock moves, you're way ahead of the game. You are actually tracking the smart money before they step up and start paying higher prices. I just want to walk you through those 4 steps of price action, simply because something's unfolding right now in a way that you really need to pay attention to. It's a stock that recently had bad earnings, but prior to the earnings and now after the earnings, the stock is churning with heavier, much heavier increased volume. So when a stock goes down, that's called a markdown. Smart money institutions are marking down those prices. So if you can think about inventory, they're lowering the price, they're lowering the price, they're lowering the price, and they're shoving that stock down. That's stage 1, that markdown. After that markdown typically ends with what we call exhaustion. Exhaustion is a volatile move to the downside, in this case, on the bearish side of things, where volatility increases dramatically, which means you see big red candles with massively heavier volume. That typically leads to sideways price action. If that sideways price action is light volume, you tend to see a continued move to the downside. If that sideways price action has heavier volume, that means that something's changing. And now we're going to start to look for the next move with markdown into accumulation. And then out of accumulation comes the markup. Now, what's interesting, why does it break out and start to head up? And I'm going to show you the stock first. We're going to take a look at the stock here, and we're going to take a look at Newmont, right? So you can see Newmont and what the stock has done since April, right? You can see the big move to the downside. Now, this is what's going to separate you from everybody at a barbecue you're at this weekend from somebody. The market's a mess. I can't read it. This is the difference. Understanding technical analysis versus understanding tape reading. Tape reading means that you need to combine price action and volume to get deeper clues into what the smart money is doing. We call that order flow. So we're tracking the order flow and reading the tape. So when we add volume to this chart of Newmont, and then we're going to dive into the other stocks in the group, when we add volume to this, you can see now that the volume here has dramatically stayed higher after this. Now, if you take a look at this, this was exhaustion, right? Big move to the downside, big candle, exhaustion. And if you remember what we just said, the big thing after exhaustion is to pay attention to what happens next and what the volume looks like. So I want to be clear about this. NEM absolutely has accumulation type volume. That means now that while it's going down, people are still selling because they're recognizing the move to the downside. But the smart money is now saying, I'll buy them, I'll buy them, I'll buy them. And they're going to continue to be able to buy them at lower prices because they're still active selling. It's when that active selling slows down, it's more important for that smart money to get the big position on than it is to get the exact price, because they're betting on the future cash flows and the future part of what that company can do, the future earnings of what that company can do. So what happens is, let's use Tammy as an example. Let's say Tammy is selling, and Tammy has been selling and selling and selling. All of a sudden, Tammy stops because it's not going down anymore. Well, the smart money needs to accumulate that position. That's why it's called accumulation. They've been trying to do it as quietly as possible. But if Tammy stops, and let's say Curlin needs to get more shares. Let's say he only bought 3 million, but he needs 10 million. He now needs to start paying higher prices because it's more important for him to get the shares on. So this is kind of cool because we're talking about what's going to happen next. What we're looking to see what's going to happen next based on putting the clues together. So if that selling dries up and Curlin, the hedge fund, needs more shares, Curlin now has to start paying higher prices. So this is where you put the clues together, where it's not just chart reading. you're putting the clues of what's actually going on behind the scenes. So what does that mean? That means that while this volume is expanding here, we now have this box here. And right now within this box is where the prices have been pretty heavy, right? Prices have been pretty heavy and volume's been pretty heavy. So what I'm looking for now is I have an alert set for NEM. I have an alert set for $48. So when it gets up to $48, if it gets up to $48, especially if it bounces out of that on increased volume, that means that now the selling dried up. The people that need more of the stock have to start paying higher prices. And as the volume is higher, they're doing it in a big way before it starts to skyrocket. So these are the clues that we're putting together. So 48 is the alert. That's what we're looking for in the stock. If it continues to trade down, we just leave it alone and we leave the $48 alert there. Sometimes it skids a little bit lower, but the $48 alert is what I'm looking for. Now, what's kind of fun about that is if that starts to happen, what do we look for next? Well, we're looking for a push and a pause. So again, if you know how we look at things, we make money during the push, we manage risk and look for the optimal entry during the pause. By the way, if that's new to you, if you could please do me a favor, if this is exciting and something, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. If I'm earning it for you today, I really appreciate that. So what we're looking for, if it explodes on that big volume, is we're looking for a push, a pause above 48. Then the next thing we need to do is set our initial profit target in NEM stock. So easy way to do that is we just use a quick Fibonacci. So we work our way over to the last significant trend, which is this move right here. And we go from here and we map this baby out and we go down to the low. So generally speaking, the 50% retracement level is where I'm looking, and that's taking us up right into that $65 area. So we have markdown going into accumulation with heavy volume. We're looking for the markup to start, which would be an alert above $48, and we're looking for increased volume. This is super easy to do. We're mapping it all out now before it even happens. If we break out on heavy volume and pause above 48, that's where I'd be looking to start my initial position in NEM stock. And then my initial profit target is going to be up there at 65. If it hits my $65, $66 profit target, then I shift over to what we call our profit maximizer, which is our way of consistently understanding how to hold winning trades to make more instead of giving back and being afraid that those profits are going to be taken away. So I think that's kind of cool. We just kind of mapped out an entire trade from start to finish before it happens, but more importantly, why we're looking at that trade unfold in NEM. If it goes down, there's nothing to do, which is why we set the alert. If it does what we want it to do, remember, when you know what you're looking for, you're never lost again. If it goes down, it's not in play. If it unfolds exactly the way we're expecting it to, or the way we just mapped it out, then we look for the clues for the optimal entry, and we already have our profit target. Now we're going to move our way over into the other stocks in that sector and see if there's any other opportunity there, because that whole sector floated to the top of the list. Okay, so we're going to take a look now at the basic material stocks. So if we go over here and we go into the sector rotation, you can see from the beginning of the week on Monday, basic materials is all the way down here at number 9. As the week is unfolding, it went from 9 to 3, and then it went from 3 to 1. So what we're seeing now in basic materials is that it's having a pretty strong last 21 days, and the last 5 days are perking up a little bit as well. So again, I want to be clear about this. When you are involved in the stock market and you want to try and make the stock market make you money, the stock picks that you make, it's infinitely easier to have conviction and confidence in those ideas and confident that they're going to follow through when you're simply following the sector rotation and following where smart money already has their attention. We're just looking for a spot to piggyback on what they do. There's more to the trade, there's more to making money, but if you start there, my gosh, you're going to feel really confident in what you're looking at. And then it's really learning the skill of managing the trade, managing the position size, understanding when to exit, understanding when to hold and let that thing run. That's the other part of trading that is a little bit more than just looking at the charts. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break down other stocks in basic materials, just so you can start making a list of other ideas that might be interesting right now and the next quarter, because that's where attention is right now from the money that is pushing the market around. We're going to keep an eye on it. So to be clear, for me right now, for the rest of the week, I'm going to be looking, after the CPI number today, do financial stocks get a bid today? Because if the number comes in good, maybe the Fed won't have to raise as much. Maybe financial stocks will catch a bid. We've been looking at AXP. Let's take a quick look at that. Also, the other technology stocks. So financials based on the CPI today, what happens with the potential for the next interest rate hike. We're also talking about the tech stocks, which have been very strong. That's going to be my focus as well. And working our way over now into the basic material stocks. Okay, so let's actually let's take a look first over here. Again, just to give you an idea, we're looking at basic materials, and we have a list over here. We're just going to go based on what stocks did yesterday. So we want to look at stocks. Now, again, keep your trading, your stock market analysis when you're looking for the best stocks to buy now. Keep it simple. The number one thing you should be saying is it obvious? Yes or no? If the answer comes back yes, then you could look to do something. If it's not obvious and you're looking to do something anyway, if you're looking to act now and it's not obvious, you're predicting, and predicting gets you in trouble. The difference between predicting and forecasting stock analysis versus probability is predicting it's not happening yet. Probability is it's already happening and you expect it to follow through or continue until that one time it doesn't. So we all know that quote, right? The trend is your friend until the end when it bends. So keep trading the trend as long as it's obvious. So the stocks we're going to look at right now, basic materials, some of them are obvious, some of them are perking up, but some of them might not be. So again, we set alerts at levels that will tell us, okay, got to that level. Now let's start to take a look. This could not be easy. It's really just, what am I looking for? Is it there? Cool. If it's not, I leave it alone. All right. So let's take a look at some of these guys here. So LYB, you can clearly see there's nothing to do here. I would have an alert set for 90. We just talked about NEM, same thing, right? DOW, also right at the box, right? CTVA. So this one actually has a little bit more relative strength, maybe a little bit of resistance here, but we'd mark that one down as having a relative strength compared to the rest of the group. Let's see, Rio, higher highs, higher lows. You can see we're making nice, consistent levels here. So this is definitely one that is in my mind right now. So you can see it's actually starting to show some nice move to the upside. Tech actually breaking out. So as earnings over here and actually a bullish gap into a pause. That's interesting. Lynn, so you can start to see there are some stocks in this group that already meet the criteria. AEM popping a little bit, OLN. So you can start to see that there are some starting to bounce. Let me go to Alcoa. That's one of the ones that we've been keeping an eye on. So Alcoa right here, right at that level. So it looks like Alcoa has to get above 50 and stay above 50. So now, hopefully I gave you a little bit of a roadmap to go in to look at some of these stocks and see which ones meet your personal resources. Everybody comes to the stock market with different goals, resources, risk tolerance, trading size account, education, all those kind of things. So pick the stocks, the hot stocks that match your personal resources, ones that you can handle, and then learn how to work your way into those positions. Hopefully I gave you a good roadmap today on understanding what you're looking for, and more importantly, what's going on behind the scenes. If that segment that we just talked about before on accumulation and why it churns in that area, and then what happens after accumulation, why it finally starts to break out, take good notes on that. That's an interesting thing. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it's kind of fun to identify. So that NEM trade, I'm looking at an alert at $48. If it gets up there, then we'll look to map out that trade up in that direction. So, man, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And yeah, John, that's actually a good one too. Let's actually put that one in there as well. Let's actually do a little bit of a deep dive into some of the industrial stocks. So Boeing has been one that we've been trading recently, but 3M actually with a really good clean push. And a pause, a push, and a pause, a push, and a pause. Now, this would be a two-step trade for me. I want to map this out and be very clear. Look at the size of that resistance level. So it's got to get above this level, which you can see we have mapped out as around 153, which is about $5 above that. But past that level, then you're looking up in the 180s, so probably around $30. So when I talk about a two-step trade, and we're specifically looking at 3M here, it's got to get above 152 to clear that resistance level. But there's a pause below that. So I just want to point out what that looks like, which is right here. So there's a pause here and there's big resistance here. There's two different ways of looking at it. Do I want to buy in front of that area where all the sellers knocked it down last time and get a head start? Or do I want to let it get above that level, knowing it's cleared there and I don't want to tie up any capital until there's better room to go up to a profit target? The more conservative play for me would be it would have to get through that 150 level. So push through that 153 level, pause above that 153 level, and then look for a trade in MMM, 3M stock up to that 183 level. We talked about a bunch of stuff today and a bunch of really good ideas as far as levels and how price action works and that kind of stuff. So if that's new to you, what we just talked about today, definitely go back over that, take some notes. More importantly, if you have follow-up questions on the stuff that we talked about today, leave comments below the video. I'd love to hear from you. I always get back to you as soon as I can. And if we did a good job today, please do me a favor, click down and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Smash that like button. YouTube really loves that. It helps them let me know that I'm doing a good job for you. And tell your friends about it. Share this video. If we found some good stuff for you today, definitely let me know. Leave a comment below. Go have a great week. 8:30 today is the big moment. CPI data. Let's see what happens with inflation. It's going to make the market rock. Let's see if it's to the upside today, because that's a lot easier to trade. All right. Have an awesome day, everybody. I want you to know how much I appreciate you being here with me. It means a lot to me. It's 7:30 in the morning. If you're watching this on a video later, definitely leave a comment below too. I will speak to you soon. Have an awesome day. Thank you so much.